Hello, quarantiners, fellow quarantiners. Uh, just want to put a plea out for your story, your case experience if you've had COVID-19, the coronavirus. Many of us in the medical community would love to know what your symptoms were and your specific experience. So if you feel so compelled to share such, um, I am prowling YouTube for such things, and it would be helpful if you posted it in the comments below. The specifics that would be really useful would be to understand the uniqueness of your experience with this virus. So a lot of people will describe their experience. I've watched multiple case study type videos, and sometimes they'll say, I had a high fever. Well, I would love for you to define what you mean by high fever. Do you mean topping 40 degrees Celsius, or are you talking 38? And so, the nuances of your experience would be awesome. Not just, I had a dry cough, and I had a high fever, and I felt really weak. Where in your body did you feel weak? And what was it about your cough that was actually different from Joe Blogs down the street who also had COVID-19? That would be really helpful information to have. Were you thirsty or not thirsty? Did you have night sweats? If so, how intense were they? Was it all night long? Was it just part of the night? Was it one night? Was it multiple nights in a row? All of this kind of information is incredibly useful. It might sound dull to some of you, but to some of us it's really helpful in trying to understand the virus. One of the problems that we're running into is it might be the case that this virus has a different expression in children versus adults, right? We know a little bit about it. We know it binds to the ACE2 receptor, but in children, when they get it, first of all, they have a difficult time getting it from what we think, but that may not be true. They may actually have just different symptoms. Most of the time, the cases that I've seen of children that had the coronavirus, COVID-19, in China, they actually had GI symptoms, versus adults that tend to have more lung type symptoms. I was watching a video today by Dan Mace, and I guess he's still under quarantine, but he was in Los Angeles, didn't actually get tested because his symptoms didn't really seem to fit a picture of COVID-19. Turns out he did actually have it, and has now some lingering symptoms, from what I understand, of not lack of smell or taste. And so those kinds of things would be really useful to know. So if you've had COVID-19 and are willing to share, it would be quite useful to know more detail. So your age, your basic, if you've got an underlying chronic condition, that's useful to know. How somewhat your level of health is also helpful, because we've initially kind of assumed that this virus attacks people that are elderly, that they tend to have a worse time with it, and people that have underlying chronic conditions. And then I saw a few cases, especially in London, of a guy who was practically a marathon runner and was training to run an Ironman, and he contracted the virus and had some pretty serious pneumonia. So it would be really useful to be able to just have access to more information about what's happening for people. So if you feel so inclined, would love to hear that. Or if you come across case studies, first-hand accounts are really useful, but with really good detail, post them in the comments below so that I can find them. I'm trying to actually compile. I started making a playlist of COVID-19 first-hand cases, but alas, need more detail. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for doing your part and staying isolated, and then sharing your experience if you had such. Audio.